Hi, Facebook Live. It's Michelle here for Which Way Magazine, and we're going to be discussing water today. As usual, I'm going to wait a couple minutes until people start to arrive. So we'll get going in just a moment. I think water is a really interesting topic, and if you don't know this, our next issue, our July issue, is going to focus largely on water. So how appropriate, right? I see people are coming now. Hi guys, how are you? Oh, my glasses are dirty. So I did a lot of thinking about water, and I think water is just, well, obviously it's a universal need, right? All forms of life on our planet require water. And on top, I think maybe that's why it has become such an integral part of so many religions throughout our world. And while not all witches are religious, I myself am not really, but I think that it is the vital necessity of water that created it and kind of elevated it to something beyond just physical necessity. Although that being said, when towns were founded, when as civilizations were formed, etc., they would, of course, always be centralized around water, which makes a whole lot of sense. Hi, guys. I see you showing up. Hi, Christy and Dawn and Beatrix. Hello. So I wanted to just touch on the fact that, there are many faiths that incorporate water into their faiths and into their rituals. For example, here, this is not an all-inclusive list, but just a few. Christianity, obviously, Hinduism, Judaism, Taoism, Wicca, and Islam. So all of those, which is a pretty wide base of religions, in some way, shape, or form, incorporate water into their practices and their beliefs. Hi, Sue. So, and that being said, there are even some deities. Now, there's lots of deities, actually, but I just wanted to point two out because I could spend all day talking about that. So just in two different ideas, there is in Hinduism, there is a goddess named Saraswati, who I was just talking about this weekend in the workshop that I did. But she is considered the personification of a river. So the river Saraswati, as I understand it. So that's kind of interesting. And they also have, I believe the river, the Ganges River, also has a personification. And then on the flip side, there's the Celtic goddess Sulis, who is also like a river water goddess, as I understand it. I wasn't familiar with her before I started researching this. And the Roman goddess Minerva is also associated with wells. So I thought that was kind of cool. And there's, if you wanted to do the research, there's heaps more out there that I'm sure that you could find out. Hello, Joshua. Thanks for joining us today. So you probably know that water within, for most witches, most mystics, most magicians, etc., water is one of the elements that we incorporate and honor and worship within our practices. We have spirit, if that's one that you choose, earth, air, fire, and water. So water out of all of them, to me, is the most emotional out of all of the elements. It's the most changeable. It's tied to love and to healing, enchantment and cleansing. And that all makes, especially the cleansing part, like that's kind of a given. So that being said, thanks for the shares, guys. That's awesome. You might know there are the little triangles that we use for representation or symbolism. And the water one is the little upside down triangle, if you wanted to incorporate that at all. And the direction that it's associated with is west, which is super easy for me here because I'm in California. So that's the only way I know which way west is where the ocean is. And it's also, in tarot, the suit of cups is associated with water, which makes sense. Chalices are often put on people's altars as a representation of water. And in the tarot, the cups are also really kind of tied to emotions. And then in the zodiac, the signs that are water signs, if you don't know, are Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. I wrote that down. I didn't even remember it. Kiki, hi. Hi, Julie. I love having you guys here. Thank you so much for showing up. Whenever I talk about tarot, I always feel like I should just defer to Kiki, and I wish that we could do like a side-by-side thing because that would be super cool. So I think it's also a really cool thing to, when you think about water and being emotional and changeable and versatile, is that water can take three forms, right? Water can be a solid, water can be a liquid, and water can be a gas. And I think that you can incorporate that. You can use that to your advantage if you're incorporating water into your spell work. But just on a pretty, like on a mundane basis, I just think it's awesome that it has the capacity to be three different things. I think that's pretty neat. Let's see what else we have in our notes to discuss. Okay, now I'm going to go into some ways to incorporate water into your spell work. That being said, if you're going to drink any of the things that we talk about, be really careful what you drink. If you put crystals in a water, try not to swallow it. And I know that sounds like a given, but when I made, you guys might remember the lemon balm sun tea that I made for summer solstice. So it was just some citrine. I put some polished citrine in the bottom. And then I did what doesn't really matter. The point is that there were crystals in the bottom, and when I emptied out the jar after I was done drinking, I could not account for one of the three pieces of citrine. And for about 5 minutes, I thought, holy crap, I just swallowed a crystal. And if you've ever broken citrine, you know it breaks up like glass. I got super scared. I just misplaced it. It's totally fine. But it really makes me think, if you guys are going to be incorporating water, and then drinking it, I want you to be really careful. So just keep that in mind, please. And so now there's many different kinds, get that out of our way, sorry. There's a lot of different types of water that you can work with. Again, that being said, water is water, and your intention is definitely the most important thing when you're doing anything. Hang on. I want to read what Kiki said. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad I did not swallow the citrine as well. That could have been horrible. Although you would think I would have noticed swallowing a giant chunk. Let's move on. So there's different types of water, and probably the most common water that most of us use on a regular basis is going to be moon water, which is simply generally filtered water that you put out under the full moon, and you invite the moon's energy to come down and charge the water. You can also do that with sun, kind of like we did the sun tea for summer solstice. You can, if you are a person who wants to bring that heat, that fire, that masculine energy into something, put the water out and charge it under the sun. And you could also, again, add in specific crystals that might kind of invite a more specific energy that you're looking for. So those are the two, and those are like probably the easiest ones because it's just water, you put it in a jar, you put it outside. But there's other ways that you can work with it. Swamp water is something that I believe is primarily used in hoodoo and voodoo practices. But if it's accessible to you, you absolutely could use that. And what it's used for primarily is for banishment and binding, as I understand it. So I think this is all theory because I have not used, we don't have any swamps here. We barely have water in California. But I was thinking that you could probably kind of make your own swampy water if you wanted to. If you wanted to incorporate swamp water into a banishment spell or into, I was just thinking about how you might make swamp water. I think just muddy water might help, but I think there's a lot more to the swamp. But again, intention being tantamount to anything else, I imagine you could do that. Another kind of water that you might want to use is river water. If you're close to a river, first off, lucky you because they're amazing. But river water, you think of with that swift, fast-moving energy. So this is a water that you could bring into your works to help kind of push something along. So if you have, maybe you're looking for a new job, maybe you're trying to work on self-love, maybe whatever it is, perhaps you could invite that swift-moving energy of river water to help your process move along a little quicker than it might on its own. Kiki, do you know anything about Florida water? Yes, we're going to talk about Florida water in a little bit. Yay! Yay! Okay. So then we also have rainwater. Now, I love the rain. Who doesn't love the rain? And again, being in Southern California, it's such a rare occurrence for us. It's a treat. I'm sure there are plenty of other places in the world where you would rather see it go away. But rainwater by itself is just inherently very cleansing and very purifying and nourishing. So I think when it rains, I myself like to go out and just absorb that energy and let it rain on me. But you could collect that water. You could then use that if you wanted to cleanse things in it. You could use it and sprinkle it around your home. You could keep it for a time when maybe you just need... I have used rainwater for times when I just needed clarity. I think that's the word. And you could wash your face in it. You could drink it, whatever it feels like. But so the properties of rainwater is going to be mainly cleansing. And there's also ocean water. Now, being where I live, ocean water is really accessible to me. But really, it's salt water, right? So they're kind of interchangeable. You could make your own salt water. But the ocean being so vast, I mean, most of our planet is covered in ocean water. So I consider ocean water to be powerful and really potent energy. But I don't think any one kind of water is going to be any more effective than another, because again, it's really about what your intentions are. But if you want to invite ocean water, I think it's a great use for like purification. If you have tools that are okay to put in water, not your selenite, then maybe soak them in some ocean water. Or maybe you soak them in ocean water under the full moon to get rid of, whatever you need to get rid of. Or even, just the act, I like to go to the beach and sit just where the water's coming in, where it's lapping in, and let it just kind of wash over me and then take away what I no longer need. It's a wonderful process. It's pretty meditative, though again, be safe. Don't sit too far out, especially if you're not a strong swimmer like me. And hang on, we have comments. Aren't toxins from industry somehow degrading magic from rainwater? Toxins are unfortunately everywhere. I think, sure, but if we're going to say that, then we could probably say that about all water everywhere. It is an unfortunate truth. But if you're going to work with water, chances are it's probably come into contact with a toxin at some point in time, which is a super bummer. We are going to touch on baths, Carrie. Colorado mountain water would be amazing. If I could get in the mountains and get some of that river water, or if you have access to water coming from a spring, then good on you, because I don't. Another kind of water is dew. Now, most of us know on Beltane, the morning of Beltane, that a tradition is to go out to collect the dew, wash your face in it to ensure another year of youth and beauty. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me. There's, again, where I live, there's not a lot of water. So I was out on my pergola, like trying to collect the droplets of water off of my pergola so that I could wash my face in it. It was arduous, but I did it and it was lovely. But dew water in general is associated year-round with health and beauty and vitality. So I like, if it's a dewy morning and I happen to see like a bush or some flowers that have dew on them, I like to just kind of stick my face in there and motorboat the plants, if you will, to get all that dew on me without having to take the plants and take the water. I can just welcome the water. It's really fun, actually. I encourage you all to try it. Yes, please. I will take Tennessee Creek water, Kiki. I'll trade you for some ocean water, although you probably have your own, but that's all I have. And then waterfall water. I wanted to talk about that because waterfall water is another, it's tied to energy and to success. It's kind of like that river water with a little bit more of a pow to it. I think I've read that there was, I can't remember what culture it is. I'm sorry, I didn't make note of it. But that there was a culture where, we'll say the mystics would actually go behind the waterfall and watch the water coming, and they would see visions in the waterfall water, which is pretty cool. So I have a couple of suggestions for incorporating water into some of your spell work. I encourage you, if you like it, try it, make it your own. These are not definitive. This is not, it has to be this way. It's just kind of a guideline for some things that you might want to try. So the first one is what I call a see clearly spell. It's not dissimilar to a timeout jar if you've ever seen those on Pinterest for kids. So hang on one second. Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, Kiki, I'll hit you up and we'll trade some waters. All right, so to do the see clearly spell, all you're going to need is a jar with a lid, like a mason jar is fine, an old spaghetti jar will work, some water, dirt or mud, local is better, go out in your yard if you've got clay around your area, whatever, and then a written note about what it is that's vexing you right at this moment. And here's what I would do. So pour in your dirt first, dirt, clay, rocks, whatever you're going to use. Pour in some water and then take a minute or 9 or 22, whatever you need, and write down very specifically on this piece of paper what it is that you are trying to figure out. Perhaps you are overly emotional about something, which would be a great way to let the water help you. Perhaps there's a situation that you feel like maybe you're being deceived or something along those lines where you're just not clear on what's happening. And so write it all out and then fold it up, put it in the jar with the mud and with the water, and then continue thinking about it and just shake it like a Polaroid picture. Just shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, and then add and set it down and meditate. I would do it with my eyes open, but if you feel better, you can totally do it with your eyes closed. And then watch the water as it settles. So you're going to see, and we all know what happens when it will start to settle, right? So the dirt will fall to the bottom, any rocks or whatever will fall to the bottom, and eventually the water will become clear again on the top. And the idea is that as you're focusing your intent, as you're meditating, as you're searching for clarification, the separation of the water will hopefully allow you to find some of the answers that you're looking for. Just a suggestion. I'm going to check your comments now. I'm in the Pacific Northwest and just collected a few stones from a waterfall. Oh, that's amazing. I think, yeah, Erin, I absolutely think so. I think if you collected them from a waterfall, you could put them into your own water to kind of magnify it. I don't think it'd be quite as strong as if you got waterfall water, but I think so. And Matthew, congratulations. Welcome to the fold, being new to witchcraft. Kyle, you're very, very welcome. Sorry, everybody. Scarlett, hey, hi. It is your element. Yeah, you know what? It's not mine. Even though I'm a really emotional person, and it's actually dangerous to drink pure wine. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, somebody else was mentioning that. It's like I said, be careful. Use your own judgment if you are going to drink any of the waters that we talk about today. Hi. You make moon water, John. Absolutely. I'm glad you're learning. Oh, you guys are so chatty today. Hang on. Sacred Cherokee water, Stephanie, I'm in. We should do like a big sharesy thing. Kiki, and okay. So, excuse me. So another one, somebody talked about baths, and absolutely, I'm sure some of you probably use ritual baths on a regular basis. A lot of witches will choose to have a ritual bath before they do any kind of spell work, or at the very least, maybe rinse their hands down in salt water or something like that. So for me, I like to incorporate the elements of fire and earth into this as well. You could also bring in some feathers if you want to bring in the idea of air, or burn some incense to also kind of bring in that fire and air. But I like to use candles. They're pretty and they make me feel good. So I like cleansing baths on the new moon, but that's my particular favorite time. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be on the new moon. But so you can either toss in herbs into your bath loose if you want to get it all cool. And fancy and pretty. I think it's much more aesthetically pleasing, but it is a pain in the butt to clean up. Or you could get little muslin bags and put your herbs into there and do it like a tea bag in your bath. Or if you're extra fancy, I saw somebody do this recently and I thought it was such a great idea. They had fresh herbs, they tied with the string, and they just hung it from the spigot of their tub so that the water would run down the herbs as it went into the tub. So those are all viable options for you. Let me see. I'm sorry, I keep reading your comments. I get so sidetracked. I'm going to try and keep talking and then I'll go back through the comments. So if you were going to do, or if I were going to do a cleansing bath, like an energetic cleansing bath, I would absolutely put salt in the water. And you can use whatever kind of salt you want, Epsom salt, pink salt, sea salt, whatever feels right for you. I am really partial to pink salt, but Epsom salt is also lovely, whatever feels right. And then what I would put in for a cleansing bath would probably be, and I prefer to use fresh herbs, I would use rosemary, basil, and yarrow. And I happen to be very fortunate that I have them growing in my garden. I always think that it's my personal preference to use herbs that I have grown. We don't all have that luxury. So again, if you need to run to the market and get some herbs to do this, there's nothing wrong with that. And hang on. Oh, it's been 3 years since you had a tub, Tanya. That's a heartbreaker. I have a tub and I just don't like my tub, so I don't use it very much either. Hang on, let's see what else. Diana says, I am new to this and have been doing some reading and studying. Find that this makes sense to the way that I always believed and lived. So now I'm learning to incorporate the ways of Wicca. That's beautiful. I think that's how most of us feel when we are able to embrace the witch inside of us is this, oh my gosh, this just makes so much sense to how I felt my entire life. Okay. Next, I feel like, yep, I have just a couple more things and then we'll be done. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. In a previous issue, and I can't remember when, it was probably a year ago, I wrote a spell for the magazine, and it was for banishing depression. And of course, magic is not a substitution for seeking medical attention. So this would be in complement to whatever it is that you feel like you need to seek from a doctor. But something that worked really well for me was, and it was just, it came to me in a trance state. And after I did it, I realized this is something that witches have been doing for ages, so I'm not that smart. But what I did is I just got a mason jar full of water. I put it out under the moon, and I drew down the moon, and I asked for that energy to fill the jar of water. But in addition to that, I let it be known to, and this would be whatever works for you, to your gods, your goddesses, the moon, nature, whatever, that I was in need of healing. And I wrote, it's in the magazine if you have that issue. It was a very brief, probably like 4 to 8 sentence chant to invite that healing energy. And then every day for the next week, I would repeat the chant, drink some of the water, and no joke, like the water was always cold, and I don't know how, and I would feel it going through my body, and it genuinely helped me. And I've done that probably 3 or 4 times since then. And I find it to be a beautiful practice. But of course, remember that it is not a substitution for seeking medical help should you need it. And sun water, again, we talked about is strength and vitality. Hang on one second. I'm going to go through your comments. Oh, look at that. Thank you, Tanya. I believe it was the June 2016 issue. So just about a year ago. If you're a subscriber, you can go back and check that out. Oh, Maggie says she wouldn't give the Ohio River water to her worst enemies. It's gross. We could probably all, water is life, and we have what's been happening with the pipeline and people out there fighting for it and for their people. And yeah, our water on the planet is severely in danger. And again, as I've talked about this before, environmental topics as witches, I mean, we are so tied to the elements and to our planet. We should all be on the front lines doing what we can to help save our environment and our valuable, valuable resources. Absolutely, every one of us. I have another one, and so If you live, if you don't want to drink rainwater, then just use filtered water for this. But particularly, this would be effective around a new moon, but it doesn't have to be. But gather rainwater and add in lemon peel, rose petals, and lavender, making sure that they are, organic and safe and no pesticides and all those special things that we want to make sure. Give it about 48 hours, and every time, maybe put it on your altar so that you see it. And every time you see it, give some of your energy to it. And this is for, I should have said this, I'm sorry. This would be for bringing domestic bliss into your home. So if you feel like you need not so much a cleansing, but a blessing in your home, if you want to invite some more love and warm feelings and positive energy, then get your rainwater with, again, lemon peel, rose petals, and lavender. Put it on your altar for 2 days, and every time you see it, picture your home life in its best possible state, whatever that means to you. Then after the 48 hours, you can then use it and sprinkle it. Just sprinkle it around your home, sprinkle it on yourself. Put it in all the corners, all the little crevices. Just little sprinkles are fine to invite domestic bliss into your home. It also will smell really good. Yay! You could also, in that, if you wanted to get super fancy, you could maybe put in a hunk of citrine and rose quartz to further amplify that feeling of domestic joy and love. And yes, Tracy, we're going to talk about Florida water right now. There is no one way to make Florida water, and you can easily purchase it if you don't want to make it. I like to make things as much as I can. So this is just, again, this is a guideline. I'm sure you could probably Google ways to do it, or you can just buy it pre-made, whatever feels right to you. So what you're going to need is about 16 ounces of water, whatever kind of water you need. I would probably just use purified water from my home filter, but if you want to make it moon water, if you want to make it sun water, whatever you want, river water, your choice. And then you need about 2 ounces of alcohol. I use vodka. I know it's probably recommended to use Everclear because it's higher in alcohol percentage, I think, but just any vodka has worked for me in the past. And then you're going to need some essential oils. I would love to be a fancy oil person who makes my own or buys wonderful, handmade oils, but I really use, I use the stuff that you can buy at Whole Foods or Sprouts because that's what's within my budget. And I think that that's fine because, again, it's your intent that matters most. So you're going to want to put in about 8 drops of bergamot oil. If you don't have bergamot, you could absolutely, I think, use orange would be just fine. 8 drops of lavender, and then I like 5 drops of clove. Clove is one of my favorites. I put clove in almost everything that I do. And, excuse me one second. Lucky Joe, baby, that's too loud. It's summertime, so you guys are probably going to hear and see my kids quite a bit when we do these talks from now on. So about 5 drops of clove, and then I like to add a bay leaf in there. And what I will write on the bay leaf, if I'm going to use it, maybe you want purity, maybe you want strength, whatever you're going to use that Florida water for. You don't have to. You can just toss the bay leaf in there too. Super personal, whatever you want to do. And then also I like to throw in 5 drops of rosemary oil, or you could just put in like a little sprig of rosemary straight into there. Either one would be fine. And then you're just going to put it into like a little atomizer, a little spray bottle. Some people use this to purify their homes, the energy around them. I have one of my dear friends who is an energy worker. As she's working, she does a lot of like aura cleansing, and it's amazing to watch. If you're watching, Isabel, hi. I'm pretty sure that she uses her Florida water that she makes on her hands as she's working to keep that energy from binding from her and keeping herself strong and clear. Isabel, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what you were doing. So that's really it for my water talk. If you guys, does anybody have questions or things that you want to share? Now would be the time. Anything you guys have? Oh, and it looks like the water magic depression spell was in March of 2016. Thank you. And thank you for the shares, guys. You guys are so awesome. Let me see. I think I got all the comments. And I don't see any questions coming in. So, wait, there we go. Kiki, you come to California. I'll kick one of my kids out of their room and you can have it. And Tanya, you come and we'll just have like a covenstead, which is one of my friend's big dreams anyway. Thank you, Erin and Rodney. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, Susan, do you use full moon water? If so, what for? Yeah, we talked about full moon water earlier. You may want to go back to the beginning. You can use full moon water for so much. I like to drink it, but you can cleanse things in it. You can use it as a blessing. There's all kinds of ways that you can incorporate it. Yes. Thank you. All right, you guys. I feel like since we as humans are made of... Absolutely. Alexander, you did hit on something, and I'm going to go after this. If you've been watching these talks, and if you know me, I am bananas about our connection with water and the moon, and how important it is that we recognize that. I mean, we are almost completely water. And so if you think about it, if we are magic and we're mostly water, we are filled with magical water, which is beautiful. And then, of course, there's the moon, which is going to hold sway over all of that. So that is my talk. Christy, thunderstorms, we don't get here, so I'm not really super familiar.
I'm just getting a memory book.
Sorry. Okay, baby, go ahead. So again, there's like a million different things that you can do and a million different kinds of water. I just barely scratched the surface. But remember that our July issue of the magazine is completely, I think, devoted to water. So thank you, Carlos. So please, if you're not subscribed to the magazine, go subscribe right now. Remember also that this video is only going to be available here on Facebook for 48 hours. It then goes into our subscribers archive. So if you are a subscriber to the magazine, and why wouldn't you be, because it's amazing, then you'll have access to this over and over and over and over again whenever you want. That being said, I'm going to go. I had so much fun talking with you guys. I'm always here if you need me. If you want to reach out to me after this, you can always find me on Instagram. I am at Glitter in the Dirt. Kiki has an answer for Thunderwater. Oh, look at that. And she wrote about it in the next issue of the magazine. Fantastic. All right, guys, I will see you soon with new talks next month. Enjoy your week and bright blessings. Bye, guys. Mwah.
Mommy, can